Thank you for having me. Well, Renata, we're happy to announce that the New York Organic Fertilizer Company is finally closed after a decade of organizing by Hunts Point residents, elected officials, and local organizations, including The Point. With the assistance of Columbia Environmental Law Clinic, the city canceled their contract with the company finally. The privately run New York Organizer Fertilizer Company has been a major polluter, contributing to poor air quality and subsequent public health issues in the South Bronx. Also, a shout out to Mothers on the Move for reaching a long-awaited settlement on their public nuisance suit against the New York City Department of Environment and Protection. It was these separate lawsuit victories that ensured a collective breath of fresh air for Hunts Point. It's really been the efforts of the Hunts Point Monitoring and Control Committee, which was a community process held by the Department of Environment and Protection. The initiative to engage the community in the decision-making process was really one of its kind, and it helped the community to negotiate this $22 million settlement. Well, we think there are a number of structural and historical reasons behind this most recent need to organize. We have to keep in mind that the South Bronx is identified as the poorest congressional district in all of the United States, comprised mostly of low-income communities of color who have endured socioeconomic disadvantage characterized by poverty, poor performing schools, high crime and incarceration rates, and, of course, a public health disparity. For example, in 2004, in his State of Borough address, Bronx Borough President Carrion Jr. stated, "The South Bronx has the highest obesity and diabetes rates in all of New York City." According to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, 20 to 30% of school-aged children in the South Bronx have asthma, which is a rate twice as high as the city's average. According to the New York University 2006 South Bronx Environmental Health and Policy Study, high asthma rates in the Bronx can be attributed to air pollution caused by truck traffic and industry in the area. Further studies also indicate a strong association between asthma hospitalization and socioeconomic conditions, which is demonstrated by the higher rates of asthma hospitalization among residents of low-income areas compared to residents in high-income areas. To add, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene also reported that the Hunts Point and neighboring Mott Haven communities have disproportionately high rates of HIV diagnoses and people living with HIV/AIDS, nearly twice the overall rate of New York City in general. So the Point believes these numbers do not accurately reflect the potential and talent embodied in the Hunts Point community. Urban communities of color have the inherent capacity to challenge the marginalizing perceptions and socioeconomic disparity affecting their neighborhoods. So the Point is working with young people and their families to provide the opportunity and support to redress these social and environmental inequalities. Of course, with this overall grim picture, the zoning of waste treatment plant and then the fish market was clearly burdening an already overburdened communities. Well, in very real terms, Hunts Point forms a portrait of environmental racism. The peninsula bears a disproportionate amount of the region's industrial infrastructure, with a majority of land zoned for heavy industrial use. Hunts Point also has one of the highest concentrations of truck traffic in New York City, as I mentioned before, and already home to the largest produce market in the country. Hunts Point recently became the new location for the Fulton Fish Market as well, which only increased daily truck traffic. The families who visit the Point each week have only limited access to any fresh produce beyond the damaged or utility-grade fruits and vegetables found in their small neighborhood stores. And this fact is really ironic since the neighborhood hosts the U.S.'s largest food distribution center, the Hunts Point Market. So, you can see that until recently, Hunts Point had one of the smallest resident-to-parkland ratios as well, while being surrounded by three major highway arteries. So the situation is really clear for us.